Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Joy Reid Show. Okay, well, I want to show you a piece of video from last week. Now, it shows a young man named Isaiah Martin, who honestly I first encountered on TikTok, where I happen to follow him. And he does an amazing job of arguing down MAGA supporters. And he's now running for Congress as a Democrat, taking on Texas lawmakers who are pushing to redistrict Texas in a non-census year on the orders of Donald Trump. Trump told Texas's all-Republican leadership that he needs 5 additional congressional seats to be drawn into the map so that he can ensure that Republicans keep control of the U.S. House of Representatives, where they currently hold 219 seats to 212 for the Democrats. And that's following the deaths of 2 Texas congressmen, Sylvester Turner and Raul Grijalva, earlier this year, as well as the death of a 3rd Democrat, Jerry Connolly, in Virginia. He happens to be the guy who got the Democratic leadership position that AOC was going for, but the Democratic leadership said, nah, let's go with the guy who is imminently going to expire. God rest his soul. And also the resignation of Congressman Mark Green from the state of Tennessee. Now, Trump clearly needs to keep the House in order to prevent oversight over his regime and also to keep Congress obedient the way it is now under the current leadership and Speaker Johnson, who basically does whatever Donald Trump tells him to. And now keep in mind, Texas is already a heavily gerrymandered state, and it's already under fire for redistricting and a process that is gerrymandering, basically rigging the map so that Republicans always win and send a supermajority delegation to Congress and also keep a supermajority in the state house. And that is from Trump DOJ. Earlier this month, that DOJ, the Trump DOJ, sent Texas a letter citing 4 Texas congressional districts and saying that they are the result of unconstitutional, illegal racial gerrymandering. So Governor Greg Abbott called a special session that began on July 21st and said, no, we're going to redistrict the whole state. But instead of filing a map that would actually follow the Constitution, follow the law, Abbott is being obedient to Trump and looking to redraw the entire Texas map to essentially eliminate Democratic districts and hand them over to Republicans. And Abbott has the votes. The Texas House has 38 seats. There are 25 Republicans and 18 Democrats. And that is not reflective necessarily of the Texas population. It's the result of gerrymandering. They've essentially rigged Texas so that no matter who Democrats are, whether they're popular or not, they can't win. There are seats that are drawn specifically to continuously elect Republicans. Well, Isaiah, he had a problem with that. He had a problem with that, and he had something to say about it. Before I play the video, I want to explain a couple other things about this situation. Now, Isaiah Martin is the person that's running for Congress, and he decided that he had a problem with it. We're going to get to that clip in a moment. But because Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, has threatened to gerrymander the state of Texas to essentially eliminate the Democrats who have seats, other governors are saying, well, we can do the same thing. California's Gavin Newsom has said, well, we can do that too. We can also gerrymander our state so that Republicans don't have any seats. The governor of Illinois, Governor Pritzker, has said, hey, if you guys are going to play that game, maybe we'll play that game too in Illinois. Let's go off and let me start with Governor Newsom. Now, this is what Gavin Newsom said, the governor of California. All right. He has said, if they're going to do this in Texas, we're going to do it in California too. And Cal Matters, which is a nonprofit site, it put up this story. Let me read a little bit of it. And it says, what seemed a few weeks ago to be a far-fetched political fantasy ahead of the 2026 midterms has quickly evolved into a high-stakes showdown enveloping states across the country as Texas this week began an off-cycle redistricting process meant to shore up Republican slim House majority. Governor Gavin Newsom appeared Friday with a group of Democratic legislators from that state, reaffirming his intention for California to respond with new maps of its own that would benefit Democrats. Following a meeting with Texas lawmakers at the historic governor's mansion in downtown Sacramento, Newsom told reporters that everything is at stake if we're not successful next year in taking back the House of Representatives, not only blunting President Donald Trump's agenda, but protecting American democracy. If we don't put a stake into the heart of this administration, there may not be an election in 2028, Newsom said. They're not screwing around. We can't afford to screw around either. We have got to fight fire with fire. There's one major obstacle to the governor's ambitions, however. While the legislature draws district lines in Texas, California relies on a bipartisan citizen redistricting commission protected by the state constitution. In 2008, voters narrowly approved an amendment removing California legislators' power to draw their own seats. 2 years later, voters overwhelmingly passed another amendment expanding the commission's authority to congressional maps. The independent commission in California became a national model for advocates who hope to end the partisan gerrymandering that has contributed to a decline in competitive House seats and the country's fractious sectarian politics. Now, Newsom, who's said to be otherwise supportive of independent redistricting, is exploring multiple options for working around the commission to squeeze more Democratic districts out of California if Texas follows through on their plan. Now, when he said that led Governor Kathy Hochul of New York to step up next and say, okay, we can do that. New York is also a big state like Texas, lots and lots of congressional seats. Maybe we will explore, okay, messing with our redistricting too. And of course, New York Post attacked her. She's getting attacked not just by the New York Post, but by some Democrats who are saying that what she's doing is dangerous and undemocratic and wrong. Fast forward over to, and there she is, New York, she's getting attacked by the New York Post. You see it right there. Governor Pritzker in Illinois said the same thing. He's like, look, if this is the way we're going to play the game, let's all play the game. And he also is getting attacked, saying that it's wrong. It's wrong for Governor Pritzker to want to play the exact same game that Texas is playing, because they're saying, look, if the bad guys are going to do bad things, that doesn't mean we should do bad things, right? Well, to head back to Texas now, Isaiah Martin did have a problem with what Texas was trying to do. Isaiah Martin is running for Congress in the state of Texas. Isaiah, hello. Can you hear me?
How's it going?
Hear you.
I'm super excited to be
there
here.
we go. I wish I had this video because it was actually pretty incredible. You essentially confronted the Republicans on that are going to redistrict the state. You confronted them, demanded that they answer for the fact that they're being obedient to Donald Trump. And then you were dragged out of the room and tackled to the floor. Please explain what happened. Oh, there it is. There it is. Hold on. Let's go ahead and see if we can play it.
I show you registered as Isaiah Martin, testifying on behalf of yourself on the revised congressional redistricting plan. Is that correct?
That's right.
Please give us your testimony.
Well, hello to the committee. I'm Isaiah Martin. And it's very apparent that no one seems to know why we're here. It just seems as if many are just sitting here going with the emotions. And it makes sense, because the game is rigged. We already know this way the situation's going to be. Many of you that are Republicans that are looking at you guys understand the game. You got to get Trump's endorsement. That's the name of the game to be a Republican nowadays. And you know very clearly that Trump told every single one of you that he needs 5 seats, is what he said. So why do we play this game where we come here to an empty chamber in which all of you pretend as if you don't know what's going on when you already know what the situation is? But the real conversation that we should be having, that I want every single one of you to understand, is that there will be a retaliation for that. You've seen states like California say that they will gerrymander Republicans out of their states. You see the same thing in Maryland. The same thing is going to happen in New York. While you were in here, Governor Kathy Hochul said that she will be gerrymandering Republicans out of their seats. The same thing is going to happen in New Jersey. So for all of the work that you guys see that you guys claim to be doing, when we should be talking about the fact that we live in a state that is unaffordable for people, our economy is wrecked, people cannot find good jobs, we literally have property taxes going up every single year, despite the fact that you Republicans have been in office for nearly 30 straight years. I mean, this is the game that we live in right here. And you choose, after we literally got after one of the worst mass casualty events in our state's history, to go and gerrymander people out of their seats. That's what you have chosen to do with your time, because you're scared of Donald Trump. You are scared and terrified because you're seeking an endorsement when you understand the truth. And the funny part about it is that you all know it's true. You can't react to it. I see you guys' faces. You can't react to it, but you all know what the situation is. Because Donald Trump runs this body. He runs your vote, he runs your vote, he runs your vote, he runs your vote, because you guys know that you cannot dare cross him. And ultimately, what we need in this state are people that have the cojones to actually go forward and call this stuff out. because what you guys have done to this state is cataclysmically horrific. And I think that everybody across the nation should be able to go and look at what you guys have done. So I look forward to Kathy Hochul getting rid of you guys as Republican friends. I look forward to Phil Murphy getting rid of your Republican friends. I look forward to Wes Moore doing the same thing. I think Andy Harris
Please finish your testimony.
Congressional career. He's about to be done too. All of them will be done. And you can thank your failed, senile, dilapidated, Epstein partying with president for all of the work that we're about to do to every single one of you.
Thank you for your testimony.
You did this, you caused this, and this is the
witnesses,
result of you and your work. No, I'm not going to finish.
Witness's time has expired.
I'm not finished. Because ultimately, who doesn't have a say in this are the people of this state, the 40 million people that you guys just kicked
Witness
off
will come to order.
The people of this state.
The witness does not. The witness is not recognized.
As a result of what you guys have done, this is a result of your policies, and you have no shame.
Okay.
You have no shame. None.
The witness.
Zero.
The witness.
You have no shame for what you've done, and I think that we all should be standing up here.
Just cut off his mic. Cut off his mic. Okay. That the gentleman will come to order. We will maintain decorum. The gentleman will be reminded one last time. The gentleman will come to order immediately.
This is not
all right. The sergeants are directed to remove the gentleman from the room.
History will not remember you kindly for what you have done. They will not. As a matter of fact, history might not remember you at all because of what you have done. It's horrific.
The gentleman will be removed.
Shame. You need to have shame. History will not remember you for what you have done. It is a shame.
Members and members of the public. Oh.
Horrific for what you have done. You should all be ashamed. America will rise up against you.
Okay. Members and members of the public.
Now you can hear the applause as Isaiah Martin is leaving the floor. Isaiah, that I have to say is what I would call getting in good trouble. Talk to me about what happened after that. You were detained because your brother then went on your IG page and was, or it was either yours or his, and said, "Hey, my brother's in jail." How long were you held after that?
Yeah, so 30 hours is how long I spent in jail. Spent the first 4 hours in I guess, the intake facility per se. And then I got to my cell, which is basically solitary confinement for about 26 hours. So a long ordeal.
And what were you told that were you being arrested? Were you ever told you are under arrest?
Yeah, so it was crazy. So what happened was, they told me basically to follow them out of the Capitol. So I got on this elevator and I went to the top floor, which was basically like the outside portion per se. And they then come up and, a paramedic was kind of like looking at my ankle because my ankle was hurt, my finger was hurt, like all this stuff was happening. And so like they're looking at all of this stuff and the officers thought, or you could tell by look on their faces, like I was just going to, be told to just leave or whatever. But then the guy who tackled me, I call him Officer Pillsbury Doughboy. All right. The guy who tackled me, he gets this call. I don't know who he was talking to. But he's saying, no, he can't leave. And so I was like, that's interesting. He's talking on the phone. And then he runs up to me and says, "You're going to be placed under arrest." And I said, "What?" I said, "For what?" He said, "Resisting arrest." I said, "You never told me that I was under arrest. How can you say, that doesn't make any sense." Doesn't matter. Basically, tell it to a judge. And they handcuffed me. They put me in jail and they take me straight there. It was crazy.
And when you were released, were you told you have a court date? You're being charged with a crime? That you're being charged with resisting arrest?
Well, so they had told me that I'd be charged with resisting arrest, like when they first put me in the car. But, I didn't know actually that I would be getting out of jail, to be honest with you, because, I had went probably, ever since I got to my cell, I wasn't given a phone call. Like they said that I couldn't get a phone call until after I saw the judge. So the whole time I was thinking basically that, I was in a countdown to see this judge. And so, they go on the intercom and say, "Okay, Isaiah, like you can come this way. You can, come to the front." And they opened the door and I walked downstairs and I met with a guard, right? And she says, "Come this way." And so I'm thinking in my head, okay, cause I'm running for Congress, right? So I'm like, okay, this thing is about to be everywhere. Like of me encountering this judge, like I'm thinking, cause I haven't showered in like 2 nights. Like I'm like trying to like get myself together. Um, and they basically go to the first floor of the complex and they say, okay, you're going to make it right there and you're going to, get your stuff and you're going to go. And I said, I'm thinking to myself, like, what? But, I read like the 48 laws of power. Never interrupt your opponent when they're making a mistake, right? So I'm thinking, okay, we're just going to ride with this. We'll see what happens. And so I go and I get my stuff and the guy goes and he tells me, all your charges have been completely dropped. And I'm thinking like, what? How did this happen? I walk through a door and I see all the TV cameras outside and I said, wow, like this must have really popped off. And, yeah, so no charges. Everything was dropped.
What this reminds me of, is what happened with Ras Baraka, the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. Very similar. He is the mayor of the city, is attempting to gain access to a private prison where migrants are being held. First, he's told by the people on the other side of the fence, come over here, because the crowd was getting really angry that they weren't allowing the members of Congress in. And he's then arrested after someone gets a call. All of a sudden, someone makes a call, and suddenly the guy who's the head of the State Department of Homeland Security just rolls right up to him. So that's very strange. I want to bring in Maya Wiley before I have another question for you, but let me bring in Maya Wiley. She's the president and CEO of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights. And before I go any further, Maya, I don't know how much you were able to hear while you were getting mic'd up and ready to come on with us, but this arrest of Isaiah Martin for speaking at a hearing, and then he's told you're going to be charged with resisting arrest because he got tackled, and then he was just released. Does that sound normal to you?
No. And let me just say, and Mr. Martin's pleasure to be on with you. And I also saw the clips, as many of us did, Joy, where we simply heard the truth said out loud. And I think we have to say that first. You may have already covered that, but it literally is seeing someone who represents people say the truth out loud, say it plain, and it needed to be said because what's happening in Texas is outrageous. But I also want to add that sadly, what we're seeing should shock us. It should shock us because it is outrageous. But it is not shocking because we have seen this time and time again across a variety of issues where we've seen politicians or federal agencies like ICE empowered to arrest, manhandle, and mistreat elected officials. People, by the way, it should apply to everybody. Nobody should be manhandled. Nobody should be thrown to the ground for speaking their piece and speaking their viewpoints. But in this instance, we've also seen it time and time again, sadly and repeatedly, where we have seen an attack on elected officials simply for saying what is obvious, simply for stating their viewpoints, simply for doing what they were elected to do. And that really is shocking.
Right. And Senator Padilla in California, very similar thing. He asked a question of Kristi Noem, also got dragged out of the room and tackled. You're not in Congress yet, Isaiah Martin, but you are running. And what I've learned about you since all of this, because honestly, I followed you on TikTok, young man. I was like, this is one of my favorite TikTok follows because you just go on there and argue with these MAGA and they try so hard and they cannot meet your intellectual acumen. And I just find it entertaining. Found out from your TikTok that you were running for Congress, but now I have found out since then that you've worked for a member of Congress. You used to work for Sheila Jackson Lee. So you kind of know what this is about. I know he looks very young for those watching right now, but you worked for Sheila Jackson Lee. Talk just a little bit about that. What did you do in that congressional office?
Yeah, so I was her senior advisor. For me, I started off actually by carrying her purse to events, and I worked my way up to become that senior advisor. It started off by me just wanting to be around her because I respected so much about all the contributions that she had done for my city and my district. And for me, I was just a very energetic young college kid who just saw this great respected member of Congress and wanted to learn. And then, over time, she gave me more and more responsibilities and then she started to consult me on a lot of like her legislative affairs that she would do, whether it was international policy, work within the district. I did about 90 straight weeks of vaccinations and testings, because this was a really big deal going on at the time right here in the district. Did a lot of work, particularly to help when natural disasters would happen. Remember when Ted Cruz went and fled off, and left? It was Congresswoman Jackson Lee that was doing a lot of work on the ground right there in the district. And I was working with her to get that stuff done. So, I was really somebody that could, one, help her on the policy side of things. She always would call me to be the late night researcher, per se. But then also I worked with her on social media stuff and getting federal funds directly to people in the district, to really get stuff done for people.
And so, and that is great. And that is the kind of experience I think that would make you an excellent congressman. In addition to your courage to just speak truth to power, I wonder, you said the room was half empty. How many of those Republicans even showed up? Was it a full panel on the other side?
No, I mean, look, it was half empty. But I'll tell you what really angered me throughout this whole process was the Republicans were not paying attention to anybody. I mean, they were on their phones. I mean, they were smirking and laughing. You had grandmas that had driven hours to talk about how much this affected them and how much they were angry, about them trying to carve up the 18th congressional district. You had people talking about how the Medicaid cuts are going to personally affect them. And the Republicans are just sitting there smiling and laughing. And I thought to myself, that's absurd. It's absurd. And so sometimes you got to just take a stand no matter what the consequences are. And I have no regrets in doing so.
And what would be the impact if Texas was to redraw the entire map, effectively eliminate Democratic seats if Democrats were not able to win the newly gerrymandered seats?
Well, the effect would be, definitely more votes in Congress that are going to disenfranchise the people of our district and the state. But, I have a really good feeling that so many Democratic governors across the country are going to retaliate by going after a lot of the Republicans in their states. I'm not someone who loves gerrymandering, but in this case, it is a must-do situation to go get Republicans back. We have to fight fire with fire, because if we don't, Republicans will take this country and run with it. We can't stand for it.
And that brings me back to you, Maya, because, what's really been kind of, I guess, not shocking and not surprising at this point, given how long I've been a Democrat and observed them and their ways, is the number of Democrats that are attacking Governor Newsom, Governor Pritzker, and the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, for them saying fire with fire then, baby. If you want to go ahead and redistrict all of the Democrats out of Texas, we'll just take all the Republicans out of California, take them out of New Jersey, take them out of New York, take them out of Illinois. What? And what's really been not surprising at all, but to me, insane, is Democrats criticizing that idea. What do you say about that? I mean, first of all, is it pragmatic to do it? What would be the pragmatic obstacles to Democrats doing? I know in California there's a constitutional there's a constitutional provision that says that gerrymandering is supposed to be through this this commission that's non-partisan. But Donald Trump has rules he's supposed to follow too. They're in the Constitution. He just ignores them and does whatever he wants. You're not supposed to be able to rendition people to a foreign country. He does that anyway. So why shouldn't Gavin Newsom just be like, YOLO, we're doing it too?
Well, I can't speak for Gavin Newsom. All I can say is this. What we have seen, and we've seen it, remember, beginning very, very aggressively in 2008 after Barack Obama won the White House, after he turned out a coalition that was multiracial and increased voter turnout among some voters who had been voting less than we would hope they would vote. And then we saw the Supreme Court go into action and start undermining the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which is going to have its 60th anniversary this August. And that has unleashed exactly what we're seeing in additional Supreme Court voting rights cases since. And this is the thing we have to pay attention to. We have a captured Supreme Court. It is ideological. It is extreme, and it is dismantling decisions that Congress has made that is supposed to ensure that we actually can have a rational, nonpartisan way of protecting voters' ability to vote. But because that is not what we have, and because it's been growing for a very long time, because we have almost the complete eradication of every aspect of the Voting Rights Act, which frankly protects everyone, we now have to look at the other thing that the Supreme Court unleashed. Remember that the Supreme Court decided, when a case was brought before it, whether you could do partisan gerrymandering. And the Supreme Court said, yeah, well, we don't think that's consistent with democratic values and principles, but we're going to say we can't touch that because it's a political question. We're going to say we don't even have the jurisdiction. This is very ironic now when we're watching a Supreme Court, let's say, behave differently and not with restraint when it comes to protecting rights and protecting acts of Congress and protecting appropriations and protecting federal workers. But I say that because we actually have a Supreme Court that said we are not going to stop you. Federal courts don't stop you from partisan gerrymandering.
Correct.
Well,
So Maya,
gerrymander.
right. And so wait, so this is my point. I want to dig a little bit deeper into this. If a state of like California even were to override its own constitutional provisions saying that gerrymandering has to be nonpartisan, and we all know that the districts are supposed to be drawn in a census year. Clearly, this is not a census year. But if they say we're setting that aside because it is an emergency, Medicaid is going to be cut, which will destroy 40 million people in the state of Texas. We cannot allow that. We cannot allow this government to impound our tax dollars to gut the Department of Education, to gut Head Start, to gut food stamps, to gut the poor. We're going to say no to that. And we're just going to redistrict now so that we can send a bigger congressional district to the House, and they can maybe override Trump. What would the Supreme Court do? I mean, I know they would just make up an argument saying, yeah, but Trump didn't like it. Trump hates it.
Well, this was my point about the captured court. I mean, there's a lot we have to do to get back our voting rights. We're going to be introducing, I'm going to be standing with Senators Warnock and Senator Durbin and many other senators, frankly, tomorrow, reintroducing the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, because we actually have to get our rights back. Now, Joy, here's your point, and here's mine. When we're looking at what happened in Texas, it's Harmeet Dillon, who is this anti-civil rights warrior. She's a warrior against civil rights, is now leading the Civil Rights Division, essentially, of the Department of Justice. She's the one who sent the letter to Texas on July 7th, claiming that there was racial gerrymandering, by which she meant by supporting the ability of Black and Latinos in Texas to get fair representation. We have seen the weaponization of the Department of Justice's power when it comes to states. We've seen the Trump administration working actively to basically ensure that there's voter suppression across federal elections by saying you have to show a passport or a birth certificate. I just think the point is, to your point, states have to look at what they're able to do to ensure that their voters can vote and be heard on the issues that they care about. We also have to continue to fight to make sure that this regime that is no longer abiding by the Constitution, that has weaponized government against our rights, that has essentially said we will use every trick in the book to try to hold on to power and abuse it and have tyranny. We've got to fight that too. And the way that we're going to fight that is together and by refusing to back down on fighting for our rights.
I want to go back to Isaiah Martin for just one moment, because here's my challenge with that. Yes, it's good to introduce the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, Isaiah, but you wouldn't be able to vote for that. Even if you got elected to Congress, that's never going to come to the floor. Speaker Johnson will never bring that to the floor. And even if it came to the floor, it wouldn't get enough Republican votes to pass. So I'm concerned, and not saying Maya, but I'm saying that the Democratic Party, by saying we're going to have a press conference about a voting rights bill that will never pass and will never become law, I guess that's fine. But I feel like the fight needs to be a little bit, we need to be more in the streets, right? Like, just from a strategic point of view, you seem to agree with me that we need to do something different, that we need to play a little bit more hardball.
Joy, can I just make one point about this? Because yes. I think you're absolutely right that this isn't just doing press conferences. What we have been demanding for Democrats to do is to make the demands and to use their bully pulpits to make clear what's happening in this country and to do something about it. And that's in addition to what we have to do. And what we have to do is make sure we're doing all the hard work to get people engaged in fighting for their rights. And there are many, many other ways in which it's happening. Labor unions are coming out. Labor Day, we just had the John Lewis Good Trouble activations across this country. But the reason I'm saying that is about having our feet in the street and demanding something different and building our power to do it. So I don't think it's about, I think we just can't cede the power of the bully pulpit we have to continue to demand our rights and use that as the public education that we have to also expand our tent as we do exactly what you're talking about, which is
But let me,
not just
let me,
rules.
I totally hear you, good sister. But let me ask you very quickly before I bring Bishop Barber in. Let's just say California, maybe if they couldn't even do it, Illinois, New York, and New Jersey were to go ahead and redistrict mid-district, and they were to send 4 or to 8 or 10 more Democrats to the House and to help override and overrule the Republican majority. Could those people who took office go ahead and begin to vote and let it play out in court? Couldn't they just go ahead, redistrict, get more Democrats in, vote for some things that would actually change things, you know, living wages, vote to overturn some of these vote to overturn some of these horrible things that were in that budget, and then just let the Republicans fight it out in court?
Well, they can. The issue isn't whether they can. The issue is what's happening right now as we see Republicans in the House refusing to do anything in an appropriations process that allows a real process. We're going to see the impacts of these harms coming very soon because we're going to see states already faced with how they're going to balance their budgets now because those cuts are coming thanks to this big, ugly bill. After the 2026 midterms. So I think we have a lot of work to do across a variety of streams, including making sure people know exactly not just what's coming, but what they have to do in their states to prevent it and what kind of pressure they also have to bring to their state electeds. And that includes Republicans, and that includes how we're organizing as broadly as we can. So I just am living in the life of we got pain coming now and we want to activate people now.
Isaiah, I want to let you, before we let you go, and thank you for coming back. I know you had a little bit of a tech issue for a moment, but you are back. What do you want to do in Congress? Like, what is it that you want to do? You just heard some praise from Bishop Barber, which is actually a pretty incredible thing to receive, and you earned it and deserve it. But what is it that you would want to do as a member of Congress?
First off, I just couldn't be more humbled. Bishop Barber is somebody who has been through the front lines for a very long time, and I really do appreciate that. Look, I know that I kind of had those tech issues for a second, but, look, I think that, we got to understand that the Republican Party is coming for us with everything they've got. And the same, thought of playing by an imaginary set of rules that Republicans are not holding themselves to, it's just simply not how we're going to get out of that. So that's why I've been talking about what I call Operation Get Back for blue states to gerrymander Republicans the exact same way that they're doing us, and honestly, a lot more aggressively. That means calling on states like California to go forward and get rid of their independent redistricting committees. The same thing must apply to Colorado. I know Colorado hasn't been talked about a lot, but Colorado has a blue state with a blue trifecta with a complete blue state that if we were to get rid of that committee, we could net a lot of seats. J.B. Pritzker's been talking about that. New York, we need to be going on a full wave, encouraging blue states to use their leverage. Because ultimately, we can talk about these things, about what we want to do, because ideally, there would be no gerrymandering. But at the end of the day, if Republicans are not under any pressure whatsoever to go forward and do something to fix this issue, they're going to continue to screw us year after year after year. So I look forward to continuing those calls. But then also my big priority when I get to Congress is talking about how we can make America more affordable. Because the simple fact is that our agenda cannot just be anti-Donald Trump. And then the second we get in there, we don't do enough to elevate the lives of ordinary people. So that means guaranteeing health care, guaranteeing child care, creating a side hustle fund for folks to go start off their first small business as well, going in and making tuition-free community colleges and trade schools a thing in this country so that as we are getting more jobs that are coming into the future, we absolutely can train people for those jobs. Yes, that means raising the minimum wage, but then also tying it to the cost of living. So we're not waiting 10 years for a minimum wage increase as well. We have to be very focused on how we're going to make America more affordable. And that starts with policies that puts more dollars in the pockets of regular people in this country.
Where can people find you online other than your Twitter, your TikTok feed, which is excellent?
Absolutely. They can find me at isaiahmartin.org, ISAIAHMARTIN.org. You can chip into the campaign, sign up to volunteer. And the last thing that I'll say, this has been such a big honor. You know, I know my parents are smiling because, you know, we used to watch it every single night. So, I mean, this is truly, you know, in a lot of ways, a dream come true. So I'm just really appreciative for you and everybody as well.
Well, I appreciate you. You are welcome to come back anytime. And I hope that everyone in Texas will be wise enough to send you to Congress. You would be a breath of fresh air. There's some good ones in there. We need another injection of hope and ideas and brilliance. So Isaiah Martin, thank you very much. Much appreciated. Maya Wiley, my friend, my soror, love you, says thank you very much. Appreciate both of you being here. Thank you.
Be well.
Thank y'all for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe, share this channel. Make sure that everybody subscribes to the YouTube channel. 70% of people are lurking, watching these shows and not subscribing. Why would you do that? So make sure that you like, subscribe, and throw some comments in. Thank you all for joining the Joy Reid Show. See you on the next one, and goodbye for now.